to the Register's Report. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County, and this show is about Plymouth County real estate. A headline for the month was Deeds and Mortgages Recordings are Improving. We're talking about the September recordings at the Registry of Deeds, this show being taped in October. We'll go through the numbers. I have a great guest on the second segment of the show talking about Plymouth County's connection with Donegal County, the partnership that Plymouth County has had for several years. And then I'll get into some Plymouth County and Plymouth Colony history. So let's go right to the numbers. There were 711 deeds recorded in September, a little less than the 756 in August, 8% more than last year's 661 deeds. So year to date, we're around 3% down from last year. And our average sale price still remains very high, $670,277. Now remember, Plymouth County's a very diverse county, very wealthy towns like Duxbury and Marion, and more middle-class families like Rockland and Brockton. The next images you can see is of deeds and sales of property from January to September. Every community had sales, but Plymouth and Brockton had the majority of them. Next, you're going to see an image of mortgages. We recorded 1,241 mortgages in September, less than the 1,264 in August, but more than last year by 4%. In year-to-date, we're down 1%. But we also always follow foreclosures very closely. For many years, it caused difficulty, people losing their home for losing a job, health issues. But the numbers since the COVID moratorium are very low. 12 foreclosure deeds in September, more than the 7 in August, and 25% lower than September, and down 1% year to date. But these numbers are very low historically. And foreclosure notices is the first document that we get at the registry that shows someone's in trouble. There were 49 foreclosure notices throughout Plymouth County in September, less than the 52 in August, but 26% more than last September. You're going to see an image of all the foreclosure notices and foreclosure deeds. There's still a lot of zeros there. Brockton jumps out as having 17 orders of notice. But, the numbers are down because of the moratorium. But if you're facing any difficulty, reach out to a federal housing counselor because they can try to modify your loan to try to keep you in your house. So there's a free property fraud alert on our website. Go to PlymouthDeeds.org, go to Resources and Property Fraud Alert, and you can put your email in there. And if something gets recorded against your property, you'll get an email, and you can take action on that. So my guest coming up is Jack LaLand, who was part of the delegation that went to Donegal in Plymouth County's partnership with the County of Donegal, Ireland. Thank you. Welcome back to the Register's Report. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County. In this segment of the show, we've always done something educational in nature. Surveyors, appraisers, real estate brokers, a lot of people involved in the real estate business. But every once in a while, we like to tell the story of what we've been up to in the Plymouth County government. In this particular case, Plymouth County several years ago partnered with Donegal County in Donegal, Ireland, the northwest county in Ireland, and we've been doing exchanges. They've come over twice, and we just finished our second visit to Donegal. And this time, our delegation expanded a little bit. We brought along some active people within the community, and one of them is my guest today, Jack LaLand, who's a resident of Plymouth and part of the Plymouth County delegation to Donegal. Welcome, Jack.
Thank you, John. Thanks for inviting me today.
Yeah, I know it caught your interest over the years that we were doing this connection with Donegal. I know you have very deep Irish roots yourself, though not specifically in Donegal. But I know you had a great time on the trip and saw how important it is to have cultural exchanges.
Yes, absolutely. You know, I give credit to you and the other elected officials, Commissioner Hanley and Jack Lally from Brockton and others that try to promote Plymouth County beyond ways that the average citizen would realize you're doing. And it's already paying benefits in a very small way. The former mayor of Donegal, Nicholas Crossan, and his wife Rosemary came down to Plymouth last weekend, and I was able to show them around, and it was really nice to be able to promote my town of Plymouth to people from Donegal, and you know, so those things in a small way will promote cultural, economic benefits to the two counties, and it's nice to see. I give you guys a lot of credit for putting this stuff together.
So every time they come to us or we go to them, there's always a set format that we try to arrange to make it worthwhile. I thought this year's trip was pretty interesting with the visit to Killybegs in the Maritime Center there.
Yeah, I mean, Killybegs is not only beautiful scenery-wise, as are so many other parts of Ireland, all of Ireland really, but they have quite a fleet of fishing trawlers and other apparatus that they use for their commercial fishing, and it was nice to take a tour of one of their trawlers, very in-depth, interesting to get on board and really see how much the fishing industry contributes, not only in Ireland, but you know, other parts around Plymouth County and around the world, of course. But you know, these people that take the time to educate us on some of their methods, you can translate back to Plymouth County to help our fishing fleet, our fishing personnel, whatever their issues may be. We'll just have a better perspective on what's happening in other parts of the world. So all of that stuff is helpful.
You know, some of the towns that we landed in originally, the town of Donegal, is this beautiful, comfortable community with all these little shops and taverns along the main street.
Yeah, Donegal town is very nice. I mean, you know, I live in Plymouth, founded in 1620, of course, and that's like nothing compared to Donegal, which was like 14-something when the castles were built by the O'Donnell clan in Donegal. But it's quite interesting. And that all goes into perspective also. You say to yourself, wow, these pilgrims came over to live in these little huts built down in Brewster Garden or wherever. And
What they left.
they left, castles that were quite substantial, quite beautiful, quite comfortable, I guess, back in the day.
Right.
So it's very interesting.
So that was pretty in their businesses that they always make sure we visit while we're there are pretty interesting.
Yeah. In Donegal town, for instance, I mean, you've seen scally-caps all over, but there must have been a crew of, I don't know, 50 to 100 people actually making the different
With a wide
headgear.
window showing them.
Yeah, you could look right in and see them working, and it's interesting to see that, and they ship those hats all over the world. It's very interesting.
And it was kind of interesting because it was actually the granddaughter of the founder that waited on us.
Yeah.
It's a real small family business.
Yeah, no, it was good. I haven't broken mine out yet. I'm going to save it for a special occasion, maybe the Plymouth Thanksgiving parade or something.
good.
We'll see.
Good.
Yeah.
And so one of the things we were able to work in this time that we didn't last time was a big event that Donegal Council runs every year. And they're awards based upon a very famous Massachusetts Speaker of the House, Thomas P. O'Neill, Tip O'Neill. And they've done that for multiple years now, and they honor people with the American-Irish connection.
Yeah, it was, Tip O'Neill, it was famous for his Irish name and demeanor, getting along with the other Irishmen in office at the time, Ronald Reagan, back when there was a lot more bipartisan cooperation between the parties. Hopefully we'll get back to that again someday. But his son, Tom O'Neill, is at this event, and it was very interesting this year. There were a couple of guys from the Boston area, a woman from Chicago that is from just outside of, from Donegal. And it was quite a gala event and very interesting. In fact, the Nicholas Crossan that came to my house last weekend puts that is the chairman of that event. He's the former mayor of Donegal County. So it was a nice event and very well attended and received.
Yeah, very happy to be part of that.
Yeah, no, it was great. We had a whole table in our delegation, and were recognized and got to talk about Plymouth County and some of the things these businesses may be able to do to expand their businesses.
So as many people may or may not know, Plymouth County has the highest percentage of Irish ancestry. It's at least the first or second largest percentage in the country. And people value their heritage. They really do celebrate their Irishness, at different points of the year, particularly around St. Patrick's Day, but all year long. And I think it was quite a thing to really go there yourself and see why people are so excited to maintain their traditions.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, America is a country of immigrants, and for whatever reason, your family came from another part of the world. My grandparents came from Ireland and started a life here south of Boston, and I'm very proud of my Irish heritage. I'm an Irishman with a French name, but when Kathy and I were able to go back in June, that was our first trip to Ireland. I was able to see my cousins in Mayo, and within half an hour of meeting them, I'm singing "Take Me Home to Mayo" in their parlor, and it was just really very interesting. And, you know, I got back again just a few months later when you invited me on the Plymouth County delegation, and I can't wait to get back. So I'd encourage anybody that hasn't been to travel to Ireland.
So there's a lot, even in Plymouth County, that reflects on our Irish heritage. There's the South Shore Irish Heritage Trail. People haven't seen that, go online, and you can go do some stops. I had Brenda O'Connor, who's the president of that, on my show several months ago. And, you know, it's fascinating, different stops along the way from Weymouth to Plymouth, including a shipwreck in Cohasset Harbor when people were escaping the famine, and 100 people died in the harbor. And there's a site in the Cohasset Cemetery, and very recently the Plymouth Hibernians did a mass. They do it every year, honoring those people that died on the brig St. John.
Yeah, no, it's important to remember some of the reasons that people were escaping Ireland because of the famine, and you know, not luxury conditions that they were traveling in. So it was that's a great remembrance, the brig St. John, and how it impacted people that were coming to this area.
So this week at the registry, you know, I've kind of partnered up with the Situate Sister City program, which includes West Cork of Ireland. And they have a student exchange that goes back and forth every year for students from West Cork and students from Situate. Situate is the highest percentage of IOC ancestry in the country, and they've been doing that for a while. And the last few years, we've worked them in to come in to see the colonial records at the Registry of Deeds, having lunch with them, and it's a fascinating experience to work with our youth.
Yeah, no, that's a great program that Situate and West Cork have been doing for a number of years. I think that anytime you have young people doing those types of exchanges, whether it's other parts of this country or other countries, if possible, really brings us all closer together to make the world a place that we can all strive to get along and talk about our our culture and our beliefs and how we're not all that different. And it's great for the young people to see that and to experience that.
So in our case, their stop before they come to the Registry of Deeds is in the plantation. They go down, they tour the replica village and walk around those streets and really see what it was like in America for that time period. I know the time period in America is relatively new compared to the history of Ireland, but it's a great way for them to understand how our great country was founded. And then they come to our building and they see the original handwriting of those colonists that established things like right to trial by jury, first deed in America, in those kind of transformative events for the development of the United States.
Yeah, John, you've done an incredible job of maintaining those records, documenting those records, promoting those records to the people of Plymouth County. And to people that are watching this show, we owe a lot of credit to you for really stepping up and going well above what the elected job of a Register of Deeds does to preserve these records and promote them. And if you haven't been to the registry to see some of these records, I'd encourage anybody to come down and see that. I don't know what your schedule is for showing
The
those.
last Friday of the month, we open up to the public.
Okay, so
Fascinating documents.
yeah, it really is. So thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. I know we'll continue our partnership going into the future, and you're welcome to come by on Thursday if you're able.
Oh, thank you, John.
Okay.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't say, like President Biden did when he visited Mayo, Ireland several years ago, Sam for Mayo. So anyway, thank you, John.
Welcome back to the Register's Report again. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County. And I want to thank Jack LaLand, who came on the show to talk about Plymouth County's partnership with Donegal County. Many communities in Plymouth County have sister city relationships. Plymouth has a couple, Situate has a few, and it's a great experience for the community and a great way to have cross-cultural ties. In Plymouth County's case, it's been a partner with Donegal County for a number of years, and it's been a very good experience for everyone. In this particular segment, we talk about some of the Plymouth County history and some of the Plymouth colony history. So, holidays for the month, Rosh Hashanah was earlier, October, Columbus Indigenous People Day on the 14th, Halloween coming up on the 31st. But I wanted to talk about, particularly that we're in the middle of the World Series, to talk about some of our better known baseball players that came from Plymouth County. There was always a person named Mr. October. It was Reggie Jackson at one point when he played for the Oakland Athletics and then the Yankees, because people focused a lot more on baseball during the World Series. We're going into a very good World Series between the LA Dodgers and the New York Yankees. We have some very famous baseball players from Plymouth County. A fellow by the name of Billy McGonigal was a baseball player back in the early day. He played for pickup teams, and during that era, they didn't have catcher's mitt. So as the ball got tighter and tighter, the catcher's hands were getting very difficult, breaking fingers. So he started using bricklayer's gloves to dull the badge. His playing days ended when he was hit by a pitch in his skull, and he became a manager. He then became a manager of a group called the Brooklyn Bridegrooms, because they all got married that year. The Brooklyn Bridegrooms transformed into the Brooklyn Dodgers and then moved from Brooklyn out west, and they are now the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's a well-known guy in the Brockton area. He ran a pub and billiard parlor next to City Hall in Brockton. There's a plaque in his memory in City Hall Plaza. But in 1990, when the Dodgers won the World Series, it was the 100th anniversary of the first National League pennant, when he was the manager. They celebrated the Donegal family and brought them all out to L.A. Another notable player, one of the only people that grew up in Plymouth County in baseball's Hall of Fame, Cooperstown, was Mickey Cochran, Gordon Stanley Cochran, born in Bridgewater back in 1903. And while at Boston University, he majored and lettered in 5 sports: baseball, football, basketball, hockey, and boxing. He's known as one of the toughest catchers ever to play the game. A very fiery competitor. Played in the era of Ty Cobb. So he played for Philadelphia Athletics and the Detroit Tigers, won 5 pennants, 3 World Series, and 2 American League Most Valuable Player awards. His career also ended by getting hit in the skull with a fastball, and he never batted again. But he is in baseball's Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, and there's a plaque in his honor in a field named after him on Route 18 in Bridgewater. And last but not least, for our well-known baseball players, there's a fellow that lived in Hingham by the name of Michael King Kelly. He was born in New York, the son of Irish immigrants, orphaned at 13, worked in a textile mill, but started playing baseball. Played for the Cincinnati Reds, Boston Beaneaters, and a number of the old-time teams, long before they had rules. So he could run from second base to home plate without touching third. But he was very well liked, so much liked that the people in the town of Hingham built and gave him a house to live in Hingham for him and his wife, Agnes, on Main Street in Hingham. So he was also elected into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1945. And now for one of our Plymouth Colony records. We've been doing Plymouth Colony records since the Plymouth 400, and this one is a very interesting one. It was a decision by the courts to try 3 Native Americans that murdered another Native Americans. So the jury was made up of both English and Wampanoags, which was kind of interesting. And they came up with a guilty verdict. They were sentenced to the galley to be hung, and then one of them was hung a little bit later. But the penalties were very harsh in those days, and that was what life was like in 1675. And every Friday at the end of the month, we show these records off at the Registry of Deeds in Plymouth, 50 Obery Street. So I want to thank the local scene for letting me share this information with you. For most people, your real estate is your most valuable asset. We try to share information about that. So we'll see you next month. By then we'll know who has won the World Series. Thank you.